This is the Neo. It's DJI's smallest, lightest and perhaps most importantly cheapest drone, starting at just £169. Now already this sounds like an amazing value proposition, but it really wasn't until I started using this thing and learnt just how versatile it really was that that value proposition skyrocketed. Hello everybody, my name is Robert and this is Bite Size. So yeah, this is the Neo. It was released a couple of days ago by DJI, and it promises to be their cheapest and most versatile drone, and quite honestly, I think I might be in love with it. Let's talk about price to start with, because that's one of the key selling points. It starts at £169 for the drone on its own, or if, like me, you can also buy the Fly More bundle. This comes with the drone, 3 batteries, the charging dock, and an RC3 controller. It's worth noting though that normally DJI will sell drones without their controllers. You can do this with the Mini and a few other models. But this is the only drone in their lineup that you can actually fly without even having to have a controller. You can fly this even without your phone. It's really light too, coming in at 135 grams. When I learned how light it was, I was a little bit worried that it simply wasn't going to hold up in high wind conditions. But thankfully it has level 4 wind resistance, and this is similar to what you get on the DJI Mini range. I was actually very impressed with how well it held up to some of the high winds and even some of the more adverse weather conditions here in the UK. Let's talk about the range of different options that you have in order to actually fly the Neo, because I think that's the thing that people are going to love about this the most. If you do just buy the drone on its own, you can even fly without your phone. Simply holding it out on your palm, like so. You can use the buttons on the top to switch through a range of different quick shots, including following, dronies, helix and more. Once you've chosen the mode that you like, simply hold down the button on the front for a few seconds and the drone will automatically take off from your hand and complete whatever quick shot is required. As soon as you're done, simply hold your hand underneath it and it will automatically land. That is just how easy it is to start to fly and use the Neo. As someone who's never used a drone before, even my wife managed to use this one, and I think even enjoyed herself. With modes such as follow, it also uses AI to try and keep you in shot while you're going around doing your activities. Here I actually took this to the golf course with me while I was playing with my father, and it simply took off from my hand and kept me in shot at all times while we were playing. I was actually incredibly impressed with how well it managed to keep me in frame, and even though it lost me at a few points when I walked underneath the drone, it was able to quickly pick me back up again and simply start to follow as if nothing had happened. I will admit, the Neo doesn't know what personal space is and will get all up in your grill given the opportunity, but honestly, the shots that it can produce are still pretty good. When connected up to your phone, you have a whole new range of controls. For all of the different quick shots, you can actually choose how they work. For example, for a droney, how far away is it going to fly? 2 meters, 4 meters, 6 meters, or 10 meters? Whether it goes high, medium, or low. And this is pretty nice. As soon as you set it in your app, it will remember it. So whenever you go to press that button and hold down on that quick shot mode, it will just remember the settings that you've set. If you're feeling particularly adventurous though, you can even use the on-screen controls for full manual control. Now this works surprisingly well, but I did find it was quite difficult to fly without having the actual haptics of the thumbsticks. It was still pretty fun and I still got some nice shots, but I would absolutely, if you wanted proper control over the drone, would recommend something like the RC3 controller, and we'll talk a little bit more about controller support very soon. The Neo comes with these little batteries. If you're buying the Fly More bundle, you're going to get 3 of them, and each one will roughly fly for around 17 minutes, or about 20 takeoff and lands. That's fairly good, but it's definitely not as good as some of the other drones in DJI's lineup. The main reason for that is to try and keep that weight as low as possible. So in the Fly More bundle, you do get the normal charger that you would see with DJI drones. However, normally with these chargers, it will only charge one of the batteries at a time. With the Neo's charger though, it can charge all 3 simultaneously, meaning that you'll be able to charge your batteries up pretty quickly and get back to flying even quicker. You'll notice the drone itself has propeller guards. These can be removed and will bring your flight time up by around another minute. But quite honestly, if you're going to be flying this thing, I would suggest having them on because there is no obstacle avoidance on this drone. And it will hit trees, it will hit walls, and could potentially hit people too. Even if it did end up hitting you, it probably wouldn't do any damage and would bounce right off. This thing has hit walls and trees quite a few times in my testing over the last few days, and quite honestly, looking at it, I don't think you'd notice. The only sensor we do have is of course that palm sensor on the very bottom of the drone, which allows it to understand when your hand is underneath it to automatically land and take off, etc. Let's talk about the camera, because this is something that a lot of people are very upset about. DJI went with a 1/2-inch sensor here. It can shoot in 4K up to 30 FPS, or if you take it down to 1080p, you can shoot in up to 60 FPS. The quality of this camera is about what you would expect from a £200 drone. You've got to keep in mind that it is surprisingly cheap, especially for the amount of technology that you're getting here. I found that the video looked okay, it was fairly colour accurate. My major issue with it was definitely over sharpened. If you were to connect this fully to the DJI Fly app through an RC remote, you can change the sharpening levels. By default, it's +2. If you bring it down to 0 or even into the minus figures, then you might get a better overall shot from the videos. Overall though, for around £200, I would say the video and photos that you're getting here are serviceable. Especially for the main reason someone may want to use the Neo, and that is realistically family holiday snaps and a little bit of light social media work. Having this guy following me around almost felt like having my own camera crew. Sure, my wife can take videos of me while I'm talking like she is at the moment, but she can't keep up with me halfway up in the sky while I'm running along, can she? You can't fly, can you?
No.
No, she says. In terms of storage options, there is only one storage option and there's no way to add a microSD card to this. You're stuck with the 22GB of internal storage that comes by default with the drone. Pulling footage off is pretty simple. You can either do it with the DJI Fly app, or you can use the USB-C connection on the back of the drone to plug it into your computer and simply copy all the files off. So let's talk about a few of the other control options that you can take with the Neo. I've got the RC3 controller because that's what came with the Fly More bundle. This is a pretty standard DJI controller. If you've flown minis before, like I have, I had a Mini 2 for a while, this controller feels pretty normal to me. But ironically, the controller was actually heavier than the drone itself. When using the controller, it flies like basically any other DJI drone. You get complete control over the gimbal. This is only a one-axis gimbal. So while it's flying in the air, it will use digital stabilization to stabilize any of the footage that it takes. This is similar to something that the Avata and the Avata 2 did, and honestly, I think for its price range and the quality of footage that you're getting, I didn't notice that it was only a one-axis gimbal. You can control its pitch and tilt, and you can just fly it like any other drone. If you're feeling really adventurous and want to spend an extra £600, then you could buy the DJI goggles and RC remote, or even the motion remote, turning this little thing into a Tiny Hawk FPV drone. I think that's where this would probably be the most fun. Unfortunately, I don't have the goggles or the RC remote, so I actually can't show off the really cool FPV modes. I'll try and find some footage of it in action and insert it here. So that is 5 different ways that you can actually control the DJI Neo. And honestly, for £200, I am impressed. And I genuinely believe that a lot of people are going to be picking up a drone like this for their holiday shots or for simple online vlogs and TikToks. Being such a small and compact drone, you can even fly it indoors. I would be a little bit cautious of doing so, and if you are going to be doing it, using the remote will absolutely help you here. I tried using follow modes and such indoors, and the drone got very overwhelmed and just decided it was going to stay in one spot in our house. When DJI said that this was a drone for everyone, I genuinely believe that they meant it. Whether you are a small child or a fully grown adult with a YouTube channel, this is probably going to be a hell of a lot of fun for you. I'm going to be keeping this thing and taking it on family holidays with us in the near future. Especially with a new child on the way, I want to be able to get some interesting and fun shots to remind them of all of the holidays that they've been on. And being able to chuck this in my bag will definitely help. Being a drone at 135 grams and having a camera, it will need to be registered with the CAA, and you'll want to be a little bit careful of where you're flying it. Of course, don't fly it in heavily populated areas and all the normal standard drone laws that apply. If you're going to be flying the Neo through the mobile app, it will be using a Wi-Fi connection, and you can fly it roughly 30 meters away from you before losing connection. It will return home like most of the other DJI drones, but it's worth keeping in mind you can't send this too far away from you without losing connection. If you're using one of the remotes though, like the RC3, you'll be getting that full acoustic distance, which is something ridiculous like a couple of miles. So there we have it guys. That has been my review of the DJI Neo. And I think if you're in the market for a fun and simple way to be able to get creative and interesting shots, especially for holidays or even for social media, then the Neo should absolutely be on your wish list. If you're looking for an incredibly competent camera drone to get some beautiful aerial photography and videos, then perhaps look at spending £100 or £150 more on something like the DJI Mini 3. Why don't you let me know in the comment section down below what you think of the Neo? While you're down there as well, get subscribed because it genuinely does mean the world to me. Anyway guys, my name's been Robert, this has been Bite Size Clue, and I will catch you in the next one. Adios.